Well, I just had a chance to stop by lovely Wayne Manor last night.
Stately Wayne Manor.
Stately Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
In the avocado orchards of Southern California. And man, when I stopped my car and looked up, I hadn't seen so many stars in quite a long time. It was very fun to see there. So let's tell, I mean, how do I even explain to the people who is the insane Darrell Wayne? Why don't you start out by telling us why they call you the insane Darrell Wayne?
Well, this goes back to the history of radio in Los Angeles, actually. I'm going back to progressive radio, and when disc jockeys were able to actually make decisions about the records they played. And they played records together for a reason, because they sounded similar, because they had similar themes, because you were telling a story. I used to tell the jocks at KROQ, right, we're telling stories, we're painting pictures, and the albums are your watercolors. You use that to brighten and refresh and make it pretty. There were three people in the control room. I'm going to say 1977. It was Stephen Clean, who was known as the obscene Stephen Clean from back in the KPPC progressive days. A gentleman by the name of Fraser Smith that seems to have caught on in LA radio over the years, worked at KROQ and KMET, KLOS and KLSX and others. And Fraser just said, you know, if he's the obscene Stephen Clean, you must be the insane Darrell Wayne. And I grabbed a hold of it and never let go, as far as a moniker was concerned.
Man, that nickname is gold. Telling you.
Well, if you go anywhere these days and say Darrell Wayne, people don't know what you're talking about. If you say the insane Darrell Wayne, they go, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy." The people can still talk and eat and mumble that were listening back at the time.
Here, I'm going to show a picture of you with a couple of sort of famous people here, and you can.
All right, let me see. Let me see if I can tell who the famous people are with Darrell.
Yeah, okay. Maybe you can figure it out. Can you tell?
Well, one of them is Rodney Bingenheimer.
Well, let Joe guess here for a second there.
Okay, well, one is Rodney Bingenheimer. Is that Tom? Tom Petty?
Tom Petty, yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell who's the
guy with the mustache?
Who's the mustache? The mustachioed man.
Who is that guy, man?
Yeah.
Who is that guy, man? Check that guy out, man.
Oh, man.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Oh, there's that mustachioed man, the insane Darrell Wayne.
So this was a time in radio when you were doing it where, boy, it was way different, man. You were trying to keep it on the actually on the air broadcasting, because it was in such dire straits economically before big radio state like iHeart came around, these conglomerates. This was like the dawn of like new radio. So tell us about
the dawn and the death of new radio for a while. That we were having some ownership issues, and especially on payday. When it was time to collect a check, they point at the other guy and say, "Well, you need to talk to so and so," right? So there were some times where, for about a 3-month period, I worked one shift on, one shift off, because nobody else was coming to work, and I wanted to make sure that we did not turn the radio station off again, because it had already been off for 2 years, and the FCC will only allow you to hibernate like that for 2 years.
2 years.
And so it went off in 1974. We turned it back on in July, August of 76, and it's actually never been off again since.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of. My favorite story is when you had to move it out of a hotel room overnight, or in the middle of the night.
It was in a hotel room. That's where you were broadcasting from.
We were the Pasadena Hilton Hotel. We're up on the 12th floor, which is the top floor, and above us was this dance ballroom thing. And all night you heard clomp, 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 clomp on the ceiling. But
that was back when you were playing actual vinyl. So were people like stomping? Was the like needle skipping on you?
Pretty much. It got pretty close. Yeah, we were actually playing nothing but vinyl at the time, because we only had 2 cart machines and they didn't work too well. And we tried to use those for the commercials.
Card machines are like I don't even know how to explain it to the kids nowadays.
Because how do you explain an 8-track to a child? How do you explain something that they've never even seen a cassette? So how do you explain that?
It's pretty
like
tough.
that old
I
vintage video game cart, like maybe that works.
Well, it's actually a 4-track.
It's a 4-track. It's not even 8-track.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
It's
that.
a 4-track tape, and what they do is half the width of the tape is used for audio, and the other is used for cue tones. So it'll play and go back to the beginning and stop. So you can.
That's right.
It's queued up for the next play.
Oh man, carts.
Yeah, dude.
Bringing me back to the days.
Yeah, but yeah, some of the DJs had to like flirt with security guards to get like the studio equipment out.
Yeah, we had some people watching us to make sure we didn't take our stuff and leave, and that's exactly what we did. Lock, stock, and jock out the door at like midnight. And there were some security people. So it's a radio station. You go in the request line, you answer a few calls. You can find pretty much whatever they wanted as far as company and dangerous drugs brought down to keep them busy so we could get out.
That's so funny.
You got to write the book, Darrell. You got to write the book. But I was going to ask you all about who you've met. Let's be starstruck by the guests that you have run into.
Well, again, some of the guests would be impressive to me because I'm an older dude, but maybe not you guys. Frank Zappa.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good one, man.
Went to his house to do an interview. Pretty intimidating, because he was a really smart guy.
What stood out the most when you went to his house? Was it the couch or the carpet?
It was more couch than carpet, because in his studio he had two 24-track boards shoved together because that was the only way he could do it. Back then it was 77, 78, somewhere in there. And so he was multitasking, obviously, because he was smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and playing with the board and talking to me all at the same time.
I'm sure those conversations were amazing, though,
Pretty amazing. We had to boil it down to something, I mean, when you take it back to the cutting room, something's got to go because, just rambling on with him for 3 hours didn't make for good radio without some sort of production enhancement, adding some music and matching the stories and putting it in, some sort of chronological order in order to play it back and have it make sense to anybody else other than just me or him, or maybe both of us.
But it didn't really even make sense afterwards, which was even better.
Not really. George Carlin had George in to the studio for half a day. That was fun. His brother Pat worked for me doing news at KROQ.
Yeah, so Pat Carlin.
Easy access to George Carlin. Two of the members of Monty Python spent the afternoon with me. Cheech and Chong spent the afternoon with me.
Oh, well, we all know Cheech and Chong.
The Go-Go's.
Wingo. Oh, really? Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, Belinda Carlisle was like my young, how old was I'm going to say young teenage. She was my young teenage crush. Oh,
well, I was hosting a Battle of the Bands at Devonshire Downs in Northwich, which is now North Campus at CSUN. And it was the Plimsolls were headlining. Peter Casey's crew. And a girl walked up to me, with a young girl with a cassette. Said, Rodney's playing my song on the air. And I was wondering if you could play it off this cassette. It had Cool Jerk on one side and we got the beat on the other side. So I set up an appointment for her to come in and we played the songs and talked to her on the air. A few months later, they were on Saturday Night Live and then on tour with the Rolling Stones. So
that's awesome.
Listen, bands that are paying attention.
I mean, they launched big time.
These bands, I'm telling you, that works. When you go up to somebody like they can play your song, and you say somebody else, like one of their peers, is playing it, and you should too. It works every time, every single time.
Nobody wants to be embarrassed being left short.
Well,
and they would never make it.
And you know what? It was somewhat of an embarrassing time, the 70s, because rock and roll was changing, and there was this thing that popped up.
Complete overhaul.
Yeah, a thing happened in music that you completely disregarded as music altogether. Can you speak? I know you don't like to speak on this genre of music.
Disco?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that wasn't that wasn't our thing at all. And Steve Dahl in Chicago at Kaminsky Stadium had blown up records and done some sort of violent things. And we decided we would put out an album. We put out, in fact, Barry's got the graphic of it up right now, the Insane Darwin's No Disco album. for Bomp Records. Rich Schmidt, who was the promo guy, put that together. And we invited listeners to send in their own original songs recorded about the subject of disco. And we went to the Orr House in Santa Monica, which was a bar there at the time. It may still be there, I don't know. And we played the tapes and voted and picked 12 or 14 songs and put them on this album and sold the album in Music Plus, Licorice Pizza, all the standard Tower Records, all the places where you could buy records those days, and made a go of it. It was fun. But we also buried some disco records at the beach, and we blew up some, and we barfed on some.
What was it with everybody wanting to blow up disco records in the late 70s? You can. There's other ways to dispose of it, but everyone was like, must blow
set on fire, yeah.
It was so bad. That's the only way to dispose of that kind of stuff. It was
should have come with a fuse already installed in the record.
Oh man, that's great.
Oh man, so the record, I mean, I bought it on eBay several times. It's very fun to find when you find it, but there are many copies out around California for you to pick up.
In general, it's a $30 purchase, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, Darrell, I want to talk to you a little bit about radio because, you know, after KROQ, you became a radio owner. You've always been interested in radio. You do a radio show on Wednesday nights that's syndicated in New Mexico and various parts of the galaxy. What's your overall take on radio in the state today? I know this is a dumb, generic question. You know, what is your take on it? It's a legitimate
question, and for the first time, I do a lot of interviews. And I was going to do an interview with Adam Carolla, and they asked me, well, how many podcasts are you on? They didn't ask me how many radio stations or how many frequencies I was on. It was how many podcasts do I do? And usually that's something that had been disregarded up until the present. So, I mean, that's sort of a turning point there. But if the way you keep score about how many podcasts you do rather than how many, you know, some people are 150, 60. Alice Cooper's on like 300, 400 radio stations. Little Steven's on at least that many, if not more. Pink Floyd, the Freudian Slip is on that many stations. And if that's going to be completely disregarded, people worked long and hard for a long period of time to build up the portfolio of stations that their programs are on for really no reason going forward, which is scary.
I mean, we here at the Barry and Joe Show believe that content is what's going to survive this. And that's why we created the show, and that's why we're throwing a penny into the wishing well of the internet.
Well, I would always say that, you know, as far as the content is concerned, you know, what the delivery platform doesn't matter as long as the content is there and people want to listen. They'll find a way to listen, whether they listen through an iPod, whether they listen through a radio, whether they listen through a computer or a PC, you know, whatever the case may be. I mean, I just think that I listen to a lot of podcasts and that are, you know, the live stuff, not the ones that are recorded. And live radio that's not broadcast, that's satellite or whatever the case may be, is still pretty sketchy, right? I mean, we wouldn't have stood in the beginning for buffering or jumping around or skipping or any of that stuff. And that somehow has become part of the state of the art these days, where you listen to shitty radio and everything's great.
Well, I mean, you can speak on this because 20 years ago, you and I were in a bedroom together. Calm down, everybody. We had a video camera in the corner.
No one was going there but you, man.
We had mirrors on the ceiling. We had flashing lights.
We had lights and a camera rolling in the corner.
Hey, Darrell's just going to throw you under the bus whenever he has a chance. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
We were here from the get-go, back in the beginning, even before digital. But right when the internet happened, we were on board with it. So we kind of done and seen it all. But there is a new survey that came out. Of course, radio is trying to save itself. And it says that commutes are back. And there's a bunch of bar graphs that show like how people are now, you know, the trend is going toward people commuting back to work and stuff. And I really don't think it's going to save it. You know, I think that the damage has been done. You know, you can't put the baby back in the bottle.
Well, 82% of people that listen to any kind of entertainment listen to radio every week at least once.
Yeah.
82% still partake. So
I still think that radio has a viable future because there's still areas where it is either the only way to get that entertainment and it's very transportable. radio might change. The delivery method might change. It might not be over broadcast anymore. It might be more about like we're all doing nowadays with the podcasting world and, you know, throwing clips up on the YouTubes and whatever. But it's the content, right? It's like you gotta have valid content, good content, stuff that people want to listen to. The delivery methods changed from, you know, we had the 8-track, and then we had the vinyl, and the vinyl and the 8-track, and then we had the CDs and the cassettes, and, you know, digital music. And now what's next? It's going to be like, you know, we're going to have something implanted in our palm. Someone actually came out with that today. I saw a news story about a little AI connectable that just like shines stuff on your palm, and then you can like flip through the internet by like putting your fingers together. It's crazy. We're gonna
is that something you guys would do if it became available and cheap? Like, yeah. No. Would you do it?
No.
Not even on your finger?
No.
You know, the one thing I'm afraid about with that is the subscription cost going up in time, like everything else has.
You pay your bill, they cut your hand off.
Yeah. Exactly. No, see, my thing is, you know, only our friend Chase would get this joke. The board. That's it. You know, the board. I put something in my skin. I'm going to become a board. Some
Star Trek reference, right? Something like that.
Hey, at least you got it right. You said Star Trek and not Star Wars this time. Congratulations. All right, good job.
Well,
he's looking to be a geek.
Well, Mr. Insane, you have tomorrow is a very special night here on the program. Why? Because Josie Cotton is coming on, and Darrell Wayne, you'll be interviewing Miss Josie. And do you know what she's up to?
She's doing horror films.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
She's got 3 of them right now, and she lives in Texas, so I'm sure the inspiration is there.
Nice.
Yeah,
very cool.
Tomorrow on this program, you'll be hearing Josie Cotton, and I think she's got a new song out too. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure she does.
Mm-hmm. Exciting stuff.
Yeah. So, Darrell, tell us about what you have going on in the insane world that you live in.
Oh man, we've been doing the Knuckleheads radio program for 27 years.
Wow! Congrats, man.
And we're on every week, 3 hours live, and we do what we want, we play what we want, we say what we want, and we just have a good time. Which is sort of lost on, not on the audience. The audience understands it, but other radio people or people that come up through the business. I have a jukebox in my living room that plays 45s, and most people say, what are those?
Oh, wow.
What are the smaller version of the albums? What's an album? You got to digress all the way back down to that.
Yeah, we have conversations. We have conversations with these new bands that are just like, we don't believe in albums anymore. We just release songs digitally one by one. And
well, I mean, that's a change. I mean, it used to be people would write, groups would record and write albums that were meant to be played in order, right? You dropped the needle inside one, you played through the end, you turned it over, you played through the end of the album, and it made sense. It told a story. All the songs fit together. Dark Side of the Moon. If you just do one download of, you know, Money, you go, oh, well, it's a cover. It's no big deal, right? But if you listen to the whole thing, it is a big deal.
And people are still doing that, though, because, like, one of the recent changes on Spotify was actually pushed by Adele. She didn't like how it was automatically, whenever you went to an album on Spotify, the default was shuffle. And she said, that's not how I put my albums together. My albums tell a story. I would love for you to just have the default be the regular playthrough, you know, song 1 to song, you know, end. And they actually made that change.
But if you're actually just renting the songs and using them as fill-in and picking one download here, one download there, it's disconnected still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how do you stitch all that together?
Yeah.
They don't know. These kids don't have... They don't have time to consume it. They got 2.5 seconds to consider. The TikTok thing's going to swipe in 15 seconds. They only need 15 seconds of music now.
Well, if one artist had the balls to say, like Pearl Jam, for example, you have to buy the whole album, that's it, or you can't have it, things would change.
Oh, Taylor Swift does that with Target. She says, you know, if you want every song on the album, you have to buy the physical disc to get, well, you know, these 6 bonus songs or whatever it might be. That's how she's been doing it.
Want to mention that I do have my own channel right now called the Insane Darrell Wayne's Alt Boss Gold. It's on altbossgold.com, and we play stuff that I like. It's just rather childish and rather, you know.
Well, do you play some Kiss? Because I know that you just went to the Kiss concert, the final Kiss concert.
The final one in Los Angeles. Now, they just announced that the last one on December 2nd in Madison Square Gardens are going to do a pay-per-view as well, which doesn't surprise me at all. $40 you can see the concert.
Not bad.
It's better than a plane ticket and hotel and all of that going to New York City to do it.
Well, I'm sure we'll all be watching.
In the pay-per-view, they say it's their last concert. I was saying, you know, they said they weren't going to tour anymore, which doesn't mean they won't go in the studio or won't play a gig. If this is their last concert, they're saying they're not going to play together anymore either. So
interesting.
Maybe worth it to watch.
Yeah.
The show is certainly worth it. And they had never played the Hollywood Bowl before. And it was sold out,
surprising.
Standing room only. 18,000 people attended that concert on Friday night.
Nice.
Full show. The staying power of the group, because they started in 72, 73.
Yeah.
Yeah. The longer the wait in the traffic to leave, the more success the band has.
It took us about an hour and a half to get out.
Yeah, that's right, man. Big band. Well, thank you, Mr. Insane, for being on tonight. We'll see you tomorrow for Josie Cotton.
And what time is that, Mr. Funkhauser?
What do we say, Joe? 5:30 or 6? 6 p.m. Pacific time on
I
the
will
dot.
be there.